The film industry wants you to believe that controlling light requires spending 10 grand on specialized mirror systems. Yeah, right. Why don't we cheat a bit? Today I am going to try and build a flashy photo setup with these cheap pieces of plastic using only basic hardware. But honestly, this video isn't really about saving money. It's about remembering how to play. If you look at high-end sets, you will see stuff like Lightbridge sign reflectors. They are incredible pieces of engineering, so they say. And they cost a ridiculous amount of money, which they don't say, but we can see it clearly. Even the budget options like the Godox LiteFlow are running you hundreds of bucks for a few tiny squares of metal. They claim this is top quality metal and there is absolutely zero color shift. Of course, if you shoot Hollywood commercials, you pay the premium. You need absolute repeatable perfection. That's why you hide the fact that the most common grip equipment on a film set consists of a cheap roll of gaff tape. We are often so obsessed with buying the right solution that we've entirely stopped experimenting. We buy LUT packs to fix our color, we buy massive lights to fix our exposure, and we just stop thinking. When you buy a $10,000 mirror, you aren't buying just hardware. You are paying to avoid the struggle. But the struggle is where the actual fun is. Also, the moment you buy a mirror that costs more than your car that worked for you for more than a decade without any breakdowns, you will not use it for a low-budget gigs. And you can argue that that's the mindset of a guy who is just starting out in the film industry. That might be true, or it might not. But actually, that's exactly the point. What about the people who are just starting out and want to experiment with cinematic mirrors without taking out a bank loan? So we are going back to basics. I bought these small plexiglass mirrors online. Are they perfectly flat? Absolutely not. Is the color rendition 100% accurate? Probably not either. Will they work as a reflector? Damn yes, they will. Pro light mirrors are usually used for reaching cramped and inaccessible places where it's impossible to rig heavy lights. But when you look at the marketing materials, they either show mirrors on heavy-duty cranes that could easily hold a massive light anyway, or they pitch it as a replacement for current state-of-the-art hardware for creating diffused reflection on set. Okay, if you want to go the DIY route and maximize the fun factor, I have to use some entry-level lighting fixtures. Okay, I'm joking, let's do it properly, with basic hardware. I mean, it just so happens that these cheap flashlights fit the bill perfectly. These are cheap and simple sources of light. You can adjust its beam angle, but if you work with mirrors, it would be best to have at least Fresnel or projector attachment to create highly focused and strong beam of light. Well, we don't have that. What we have is a piece of rubber you would normally find in the sewage pipe section of Home Depot. But it can facilitate different kind of gobos, so really for the price it's a nice addition. Of course, if you block an already weak light with a piece of cardboard in a bright room, the result is, well, pathetic. This is exactly where most creators give up. They look at this sad little dot of light, blame the budget and go back to scrolling for gear. But this is where the fun begins. Let's do a low light session, because why not? Slow photography is something that absolutely rips open your creativity. And you will be doing slow photography when your shutter speed reaches 1/10 of a second just to capture this tiny amount of light. A few days ago we opened a new part of our studio. And as you can see, you have pretty dark space here. By the way, I am not using any additional lights for this shot. I am just standing in front of this big glass wall. But first, let's experiment. If you want to learn lighting techniques, use rule number 1. Never improvise with a live model ready to shoot when you could have prepared beforehand. Even if you feel confident that you have the skill to work through any obstacle, when a real human is in front of your lens, you need to focus on the photography and the subject. Also, if a model is watching you, you probably won't let yourself be a complete idiot. And being an idiot is a crucial part of the learning curriculum. So this idiot right here apparently doesn't have any friends or the proper attachments to grip this Neewer lamp. But here comes rule number 2. Every grip problem on a film set can be solved with a plentiful amount of a gaff tape. Yeah, it worked. Problem solved. Having no friends isn't a problem either. Meet Edward. We will put Edward on a chair. If you think this is all some strange simulation and I'm just doing this for the video, you are dead wrong. I've done more of these test scenario sessions than the real ones. Edwards are everywhere, just waiting to be photographed. A pitch black room is not very inspiring. I mean, there is nothing here. We definitely aren't shooting fashion with this setup, so let's try to focus on somehow creating a three-dimensional perception of space. How do you create depth in an image when the background is pure black? You can't. Not unless you add something else. I'm obviously not going to drag furniture in here, but I will use smoke. If there is smoke in the air, every single light ray becomes visible inside a space as a three-dimensional shape of varying density. And if you are wondering if a smoke machine belongs in the budget gear bucket, yes, it is extremely cheap. Plus, if you fail as a videographer, you can always start a DJ business. Okay, the light source goes out of the frame and we backlight Edward. Why start from the back? Because of rule number 11. Never ever, for f***'s sake, start setting your lights from the front. Just don't. Please give yourself a real chance to learn something by not destroying your shadow definition right off the gate by putting a stupid softbox right in front of your subject's face. But this video isn't a lighting basics tutorial. It's about having fun. You have a decent light source, you have cinematic light streaks that give you +10 respect on the internet forums, and you literally have a hand to bounce light onto a face. No, I really mean it. See for yourself. See that? And if you are really crazy, you can make Edward read a book, and wow, that's a nice soft source of light. And if you actually have friends, you can even use your friend as a reflector. You can literally color grade your image just by changing the color of the t-shirt they are wearing. Okay, let's assume we want a hard source of light to make things dramatic. Now we introduce the mirror. Here we go. Simple. A one light setup, and it's shit. It's very bad. It doesn't. Oh wow, what the hell is that? So at this point I could easily wrap up the experiment and hit you with the conclusion that you actually do need to spend hundreds of dollars on pro gear, and then in some magical way my affiliate link would just appear in the description. So what happened? My own cheapness happened. I bought the absolute cheapest, most fake mirror-like piece of plastic you can buy on the internet. But just because I was cheap doesn't mean the whole project is dead. The same day I drove down to a local department store and bought a piece of an acrylic mirror. It cost about 4 times as much as the cheap plastic one. I set it up, turned on the light, and that weird ugly reflection pattern was completely gone. I could still see some gradients in the light it bounced, but honestly you really only notice them with the naked eye. Also, this mirror definitely throws a warmer color cast. I have to admit though that this little accident is a great commercial for expensive high-end gear. But let's remember that we are currently testing those mirrors in the most brutal, unforgiving way possible. Our light source is literally the size of a grain of rice. It produces a beam so sharp that you would see a single speck of dust sitting on mirror's surface. In the real setup you would use something like Fresnel modifier or a focusing dish. Those create a much larger lighting area which naturally smooths out the reflection. We can actually fake that right now just by slapping a simple diffusion layer in front of the flashlight. A bit of diffusion and the nasty pattern vanishes. Also, a side note, if you are a massive lighting nerd, you can use that weird pattern to your advantage. Just physically bend the plastic and you can produce some insane textures. Okay, let's assume that hard light worked. And let's go one step further. Let's make a mirror with a diffusion layer. Every expensive professional mirror system offers different levels of diffusion gradation. Normally I would use a frosted glass spray for DIY, but remember that foil screen I was peeling off at the beginning of the video? You guessed right. That's the mirror without the protective foil peeled off. Magic. It works wonders. Okay, this isn't a highly sophisticated lighting setup, but this kind of limitation will force you to work better with the model. Probably. Frankly speaking, not all of these setups are worth doing a real session. And the photos you take here are usually not the top tier work. But when you produce crap, you learn exactly where it stings. or something like that. We didn't do any heavy styling or prep work, and as is almost always the case, the best setup turned out to be the simplest one, just a single light source. I also tried to get clever and introduce a second light with some color, which frankly was a terrible idea when you can't even control your main light properly. Instead of actually directing the model on set, I was just standing there struggling with that second light. Obviously, these aren't any spectacular portraits by any means, but many beginners are entirely convinced that you need an expensive, massive lighting rig to start photography even at this level. But here we are, we've got a cheap flashlight and a piece of plastic mirror for under $100. The setup is completely unforgiving. When you make a mistake, you see it instantly. Every tiny movement of the model's face can carve a harsh, unpleasing shadow right across her cheek. When a small mistake completely destroys your image, you learn extremely fast how not to make that mistake again. But sure, we really didn't need mirrors for the previous setup if we had just a bit more hardware at our disposal. So where exactly should you use such mirror systems? In every place where you would not install your heavy lamp otherwise, for instance 2 meters above your model's head. Basically, there are plenty of places around us where hanging 20 kilograms of hot steel might not be the best idea. So let's get real this time and do a higher level experiment. We will use a proper hardware this time. I will be working in this cozy bedroom scenography with a few pink accents. I want to have somewhat non-standard setup with a shaft of light firing vertically downwards. So I took a piece of cardboard, glued 4 mirrors onto it, making it into the shape of a small window. Now I just need a sturdy rig to firmly attach it to, and voila! A light brush sign reflector. Of course, this one is going to be hanging right above someone's head, so I am not using any DIY hacks for the main support. We are having fun here, but high quality clamps and heavy duty stands are something worth investing in, even if it's just for your own safety. Now the real tweaking begins. To make the lighting feel a bit more realistic, I brought in a flex LED panel and used it from the side. I also threw a single COB light right behind the window blinds. Because this is a photo session aimed at showcasing the model, the scenography is just treated as a prop, not a strict, realistic film world. In this kind of photo session, you can get away with flashy, highly theatrical lighting. Building a true realistic film set is much harder to do without a dedicated team, and right now my crew is just me. As for the light brush reflector, I left the diffusion on the mirrors. Sure, I won't get those super strong sharp light rays, but honestly, top-down lighting is incredibly hard to maintain on a human face, and I really didn't want to fight against harsh shadows on top of everything else. Because the distance the light has to travel is long enough, the ray still keeps a high level of directionality, which is the whole idea behind hanging mirrors high up below the ceiling. Top-down lighting can be absolutely great for selectively illuminating just a specific part of your scenography. It works wonders on flat horizontal elements like bed or a carpet. Plus, when the source is out of the frame, it often looks completely natural, simply because we are so used to seeing lamps installed above our heads. But I definitely didn't want that top-down beam to be the main source of the light for the model. That's exactly why I kept readjusting the position of the flex light, while the light behind the window was just used as an ambient addition. Looking at the final shots, we managed to get some really decent results, considering this was completely improvised. Even though I have dozens of heavy professional lights sitting in my gear room, I would never hang a heavy fixture directly above a model's head, especially not when I'm operating completely alone. By now you've probably noticed this video isn't heavily scripted. I thought I was going to end the video right after the shoot, but I have to say that working with these DIY mirrors was not as magical and easy as I thought. They are flimsy and delicate. I managed to deeply scratch 2 of the panels and I have no idea when. Also, my studio is now missing a broom and I'm still not entirely sure that was a worthy trade. Jokes aside, professional mirror systems prices are astronomical. I'm looking forward to seeing some budget brand come in and disrupt this market. We saw the exact same thing happen with the flexible LED mats at the beginning. So that's all from me today. Keep up the good work and experiment more. See you in the next one.